Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Joppy Noodle Legs here today. Sorry it's a little bit bright, but I've had to put the light on because the evenings are drawing in now here in the UK. So it's I needed to sort of put the light on just so you can see what I'm talking about. We're going to show you. Anyway, today I've got another top 10 for you. I've done this quite late in the day because I want to get this done so it's on my channel ready for you guys to see next week, because I'm off work for a few days next week, so I'm going to pop down and see the lad down in Stevenage. So I wanted to get some bits ready for me to upload for you to watch while I'm away. So I've got a horror top 10 for you. This one today is my top 10 favourite controversial films. Now, this is a little bit like the Video Nasty top 10, but it's different because a lot of these weren't Video Nasties, because the Video Nasty censorship thing has gone and passed, and a lot of these films come out past that. And obviously if it was still around, these would be definitely 100% Video Nasties, because they are very disturbing, and some of them are just sort of like gut-wrenching, but we'll get to that. Two films that will not be in this video are Salo and a Serbian film, because to me they're not even horror films, and they're not worth me time, because they're just depraved sort of like viewings, and they're not, it's not shocking, it's not, you know, anything like that. It's just horrible. And so I don't class them as, although I love a shocking film, but it still needs to be an entertaining, you know, it still needs to have something to sort of like think, yeah, that was really cool. And they are just making films that that's just the worst thing I've ever seen. So they won't be in here. But there is quite some really cool films in here. One film that's not in here, which should be in here really, but I haven't put it in here because I've spoken about it quite a few times, and it's The Exorcist. Obviously, when that came out, the controversy around that film was huge. A lot of religions and churches were very anti the movie, and it was been banned for a long time in the UK. It was banned for Video Nasty time, and it was still banned after, when the Video Nasties period was over. It was still banned for a long time. It actually took quite a while for that to get a proper release, and even then it was cut. Excuse me. But now you can get it uncut, because the censorship is nowhere near as, the censorship is sort of like non-existent really now. You can get away with anything pretty much. But yeah, it was very controversial in its time. So that's a little bit of an honourable mention, because I do have three honourable mentions. First up is a Korean film called I Saw the Devil. I'm giving this an honourable mention because it's a very disturbing film, and I do remember this when this came out. I remember reading in some of, I think it was the Metro, saying a lot of stores are not stocking this film because of its content. Now this film is about a serial killer there, and he kills this guy's wife. So he goes on the revenge. He catches him, he tortures him disturbingly, and then lets him go, and then chases him again and catches him again and tortures him more, even worse, and it gets worse and worse and worse as the time goes on. It's a really disturbing serial killer movie, and a lot of stores didn't stock it, which was really strange when it came out. I remember, because it took me a while to get hold of it. I had it on DVD, and I think it was Tartan Videos I had it on, I can't remember. But then I managed to pick it up now. It's now available everywhere on Blu-ray. And it is a very disturbing film. It is a good film. It's worth a watch if you like disturbing movies. But that's an honourable mention. The second one is a classic I've brought up in so many of my videos, but it needs to be in here because I can't make a video about controversial films without including it, and it's The Evil Dead, of course. I mean, Sam Raimi's Evil Dead it's renowned for its controversy when it came out, for its gore, its violence, its tree rape scene, and it was taken to court and they won the case. The Palace Video were allowed to release it as long as they cut some bits out, so it came out with a lot of the bits cut out of it, and etc. Now it's available totally uncut, and and it's a really, really cool film, really good. Honourable mention, The Evil Dead. Should have been in there, but I want to put a few in there that I've not talked about before. Another honourable mention goes to an Italian film that I have spoke about before. I think it was in my Video Nasty video, and this is Don't Torture a Duckling. Now, this is a controversy in a different way because it's not ultra violent, it's not ultra gory, but it was its subject matter that made it controversial because it's about a child serial killer, and it's about these kids being killed. And you don't actually see the killings as such in the film, but you do see the aftermath. So it's quite controversial at the time and quite disturbing. It is quite a disturbing film. It's quite a slow burn film, but it's a really good film. I love it. It's a cool film, and I'd really recommend anyone watching it. But yeah, when it came out, it was controversial because of its subject matter, more so than the violence. So I thought I'd give it an honourable mention, because it is a great little film and it's worth your guys' time. Don't Torture a Duckling. I've rabbited enough. Let's get on to my top 10, shall we? So at number 10, we're going to start with Eli Roth's Green Inferno. Now, I actually really like this film. It gets a bad rap, and I don't understand why. I think it's really cool. This is Eli Roth's tribute to like the 1970s sort of Italian cannibal movies that we were sort of like inundated of, you know, when the Video Nasty time was around. And he's obviously a really big fan. Anyway, he went out and made his own cannibal film. If you remember right, the Cannibal Holocaust, the second film was called Green Inferno, I believe. So he's made his own version of that. Now, this is nowhere near as violent or as graphic, or does not have any animal cruelty in it as the Italian films, but it is still a very gory and disturbing and violent watch. It's not an easy watch, guys. It's really not. It is still quite disgusting, but it's nowhere near as bad as that. So if you think, but you're saying it's disgusting, so imagine how bad they are. Believe me, they're bad. So this gets in there because it got a lot of press. It was always, I've seen it in quite a few newspapers like the Metro and the Guardian and everything, all talking about this film, saying, you know, how it should be banned and everything. It's, you know, it's a disturbing film, but it's a good little film. I like it. I know a lot of people don't, but I like it. I love Eli Roth. I like him so much that he's in at number 9 as well. We have another controversial film, and that's Hostel. Now, this came out when the torture films weren't really a thing. Then all of a sudden we had this. We had Saw. We had films like Captivity. We had films like Vacancy. And all these films dealt with sort of like torture. And again, this one got quite a bad rep in the press because of its content. Now, this is about youths going on holiday in Europe to sort of like youth hostels, and they end up getting kidnapped and taken to these sort of like derelict warehouses where rich men were, torturing them and killing them, you know, any way they want to do it, burn them, cut limbs off, whatever, that they could do whatever they wanted to them. They paid the millions to do it, and they did it. And I believed it did hit the sort of holiday industry a little bit when this came out. A lot of people didn't want to go to some places in Europe because they believed, oh my God, is that what Europe's like? And we all know it's not. It's just a movie. But yeah, it caused quite a problem when it came out. I do remember reading about it, and it is a really good film. And this is Eli Roth's film of it, Hostel. Really cool. And that's number 8. Now, was that number 8 or number 9? Number 9. Number 8 is a well-known controversial film. You've probably all heard about it, and it's the Human Centipede. Now, this was a difficult one because it was like it was a grotesque sort of idea that the producers of the film said it's medically proven it can happen. and it's about this doctor. I believe it could be Germany or Sweden. I'm not sure, but in Europe, and he wants to sew humans sort of bum to mouth, bum to mouth, bum to mouth. Yeah, so whatever that first person eats works his way through his body to the next one. So it's kind of disgusting. Anyway, this also came out around the same sort of time as Hostel and all these sort of things. It was a time of making films that were controversial. It was almost a time period of horror when you had to be controversial to be sort of like heard. Whereas now it doesn't really matter. You could make a really sleazy horror or gory horror or just a fun horror and it would get heard now. But then you had to hit the headlines to be able to get an audience with the horror genre, because horror took a bit of a hit, you know what I mean, after, because it got repetitive with the sort of like 90s slashers and stuff like that. So people started to get bored. So they tried to make films a bit more controversial. So they made The Human Centipede, and it really was. It's a good film. I really enjoyed it. It is a disturbing watch, but it's a really good film. But you think that disturbing? The second one was worse. It was that bad they had to film it in black and white. It was that gory. Apparently it was filmed in colour, but they had to turn it to black and white because it was just too disturbing and disgusting to be in colour. So that tells you everything really. There is Human Centipede 3, which I've got, and I can't put my hands on it. I don't know where I'll put it, but that's not as bad as these two, but that's the worst of the Human Centipede films to watch. But they had quite a bit of controversy over them, and they were again on the news, in the papers everywhere, and you know everyone wanted them banned because of the content. But there we are. Was that number 8? Let's have a look. Let me have a little look. So I'm sure I've done. Let's have a look. 10, 9, 8. Yeah, I think because I put Human Centipede 2 as number 7. Yeah, that was number 7, Human Centipede 2. Well, anyway, we're up to number 6 now. This one I've talked about loads of times, and it's been in a lot of my top 10s, and I really like it. And it's Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Again, this is about a true story based on Henry Lee Lucas. And when it came out, again, it hit a lot of controversy in the sense of like, this sort of film shouldn't be allowed out. A bit like American Psycho when that came out. But it just sort of like, you say, no, you know, it sort of glamorizes a serial killer thing. I thought, well, it doesn't. It's just a film, a historical sort of film. I mean, now they've just made one on Netflix of the other serial killer, which his name is gone from me, the cannibal guy. And I'm just thinking, but you got things like Silence of the Lambs and all that that are about serial killers. So this is just a different version of it. Because you sort of followed the Jeffrey Dahmer, that's what I'm thinking of. Just because you saw this from the eye of the killer, I think that's why it was more sort of controversial, where a lot of the other ones were the detective side and trying to find him. This one was like you're seeing the film as if you're the killer. Just like another one that's going to be coming up shortly, which you know it's going to be now, don't you? Because I've talked about it a lot and I reviewed it. Anyway, number 6. So number 5, it's a bit of a difficult one to put in here, really, because is it controversial? Because it's 2 films. The first one wasn't until the second one came out, and then the second one got a lot of press. So I'm talking about Terrifier, of course. Now, Terrifier, the first one, which had somewhere on DVD somewhere, a long time ago. I think it came out about 2016, something like that. It's been out for a while. It was just a normal, disgusting, video nasty, like, gory slasher movie about Art the Clown. And that just went by, you know, it didn't have any sort of no news about it or anything. But in the second one, excuse me, the second one came out. This set here is 1 and 2. Came out, Terrifier 2 this year, to a lot of controversy. Lots of, again, and the controversy is pretty much created by the press. and the press saying, oh, people were fainting, people were feeling sick, people could not watch it. Even the strongest horror fan can't watch Terrifier 2. It's just so disgusting and disgraceful and depraved, and I'm just thinking it's just a horror movie about a killer clown. I will do a killer clown top 10. I'm sure Art will be in there. Anyway, these films are pretty much about Art the clown, who's a serial killer, and there's no real plot to it. He's going out killing, and they are extremely gory, extremely good fun, and worth anybody's time. And I do really want that mask. I'm so after that mask. So if you guys see it, about reads me, not a cheap Chinese rip-off mask, because when they turn up, they never look like it. What happens is they grab a photograph of like the Trick or Treat Studio mask and put that up, and the mask you receive, which is about £20 or something, is not going to be the proper sort of looking mask. But yeah, number 5, Terrifier movies. They're more of a modern one. So number 4, these are all classics now. This is one that I reviewed last week and gave it a 10 out of 10. It's one of my favourite serial killer slasher movies, and it's Maniac. Now, this was really controversial when it came out because it's about this killer here that goes around killing women and scalping them and putting their scalps on sort of mannequins in his house, and you know, it's about a depraved sort of killer. And when it came out in America, mostly it hit a lot of controversy, them thinking, oh, this is going to influence men to go out and do this to women. It depraves women. It makes women look like victims. Well, they were. It's just a film, though. You know, it's just a film. It's a horror movie. You know, there's hundreds of films like Maniac. There's hundreds of films like Terrifier, and they all go past everyone. But now and again, you'll get one that will come out that someone from some paper or whatever, or will see it, some rights group will see this, and then they will fire it up and make it into this big, oh, this disgusting deprive, and that's when the controversy starts. And what happens is that actually normally helps the film. Like that, it's really helped the film. Now everybody wants to see Terrifier. Around Halloween time, you couldn't pick the movie up for love or money. You could rent it, but if you're a collector, you couldn't pick it up for love or money because everybody wanted it because of the controversy behind it. And so it can help a film. And this helped this film because it made it a real cult following. It's got a really strong cult following. And it's an amazing film. And it's just had this new release from A38 Films, which is awesome. So the top 3 are 3 obvious ones. Number 3, I've also done a review about it on my channel. And it is I Spit on Your Grave. Of course, the infamous Video Nasty. One of the films that started this and The Evil Dead and The Exorcist were the sort of 3 films that really kicked off the Video Nasty, along with things like Zombie Flesh Eaters and, you know, Night the Demon, things like this. Night the Bloody Apes. Night the Bloody Apes, by the way, guys, waste time, it's rubbish. But yeah, this is about a woman who gets raped multiple times and she seeks her revenge on her killers in graphic ways. So this was a banned for a long time. It's still talked about today, but now you can get it uncut, and they've made other sequels and more films to it. There's about 5 of them. I Spit on Your Graves now. You know, when this came out, I always thought, I hope they never make another film like this, because it was very disturbing to watch. I still find it hard to watch today, just because like there's like a 20-minute rape scene which you don't really need to see. You know, but there we go. Yeah, so that's number 3, I Spit on Your Grave. And then number 2 is Wes Craven and Sean Cunningham's Last House on the Left. Of course, this hit a lot of controversy in the 70s as a Video Nasty because it depicts, again, a bit like Spit on Your Grave, 2 young girls being captured by this group. taken to the countryside, tortured, raped, killed in horrible ways by 3 horrible people. And then the parents of the 2 girls, because they go to the house and the parents find out they killed the girls and get their revenge on them. It's a revenge movie, a bit like I Spit on Your Grave, very similar in a lot of ways, but it's a very, very disturbing watch. And again, it's a film that I do visit now and again, but I can't watch it very often because it's not a film you pick up to watch for fun. You know, it's just a film that you pick up to watch to remind yourself of how horrible things can be and how horrible. But it was quite an important film, in a sense of like it did open that sort of controversial. Because this was before I Spit on Your Grave and things, and this sort of kicked it off. And other filmmakers made films similar. I Spit on Your Grave. You had Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You had films like, obviously Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a very, very tame sort of a horror film compared to this. But yeah, and I mean, even in the 90s, films like Wolf Creek and things like that, they're all sort of like focused on the depravity of people, mostly women, and this is what causes them a lot of controversy because it is normally about the women. Number 2. So number 1 has to be the film that I've spoke about many a time, saying it's the most controversial film that I've ever seen and that I own, and it's Cannibal Holocaust. Now again, this is about a team of a team of filmmakers that go off to the Amazon in search of this tribe, this cannibal tribe. They find them, and in the filmmakers abuse the villagers and kill animals, and they're real animals that are killed in this film. And there's one scene with this girl here put on a spike. They actually think that was real, and the director went to court with suspicion of murder. This is a true story, because a part of the contract of the film was that the stars of the film, because they got killed in the film, were to stay out of the public eye for about 6 to 8 months, not to be, to not be seen, because they wanted to show that they were dead. So it went to court. So obviously they had to come forward and say, no, we're still alive. We're all here. It's just a film. Nobody died. And they showed how they did this sort of camera trick. But it still had a lot of controversy because of the animal cruelty, which makes me sick, and disgusting. I hate it. The reason why I own it, and the reason I own this film, is because this edition here has a different cut of the movie, animal cruelty free. So all the animal cruelty in there has been cut off, so you don't see any of it. So I can watch that, and it's a really good film with that cut out. It's still disgusting and violent and gory. You see decapitations, you see men's genitals being cut off, everything. It's a very deprived watch, and it is a difficult watch, but it's an important film in the sense that it shows you how horrible human beings can be, to not just each other, but to animals, to everything around them. Have no respect for anything. I mean, they go to this village where the cannibals are, and the cannibals are not doing anything, no harm or anything, but then they start raping the women, killing them, setting their villages on fire. So then the cannibals go and get their revenge on the filmmakers, and they all come to disgusting, gory ends. And that's Cannibal Holocaust, and that is my top 10 controversial movies. Quite a long video this, wasn't it? Because there's stories behind most of these films. I don't know the ins and outs of stories, so I'm not going to go into too much depth, because I don't want to get, oh, that's not right, that didn't happen, because you will get some people commenting stuff like that, not just enjoying the video for being a video and showing you some cool movies. Although they might be very controversial, they're still cool movies. If you're into horror and controversial films, I recommend any of those to you. Excuse me. Just be careful with this one, okay? Watch the Animal Cruelty free version. And there we go. So it's an interesting little top 10, wasn't it? It's a little bit like Video Nasties, because there was a few Video Nasties in there, Spit on Your Grave and Cannibal Holocaust, etc. But then a lot of those films came out well past the Video Nasty sort of time. But if the Video Nasties were still about today, you know, these films, Human Centipede and Terrifier and that, they would all be in there, wouldn't they? They would all be down there as Video Nasties, because they are disgusting films. They are hard to watch. You've got to have a strong stomach to watch a lot of these films. But the same with some of the Saw films. Like when you get to sort of like Saw 4 and 5, they're outrageously like, you're sort of like, oh, you know, you can't watch that sort of thing. It makes you really like, you know, but they're sort of mainstream, you know, and they're sort of like made mainstream. And you get video games the same, you know, that are torturing it, like Until Dawn and things like that, where there's a lot of torturing going on in there. It's just like, it's sort of mainstream now. You can even play it in a video game. It's crazy, right? Anyway, guys, please check out some horror channels for me. Please check out Horror Hands, The Horror Geek, Pizzawell, Man v Horror, I Am the Ice Lord, Sarah of Horror, RS Designs, Horror in Todge, Horror Geek, all great channels, guys. Please check them all out. Until next time, look after yourselves, and I really hope I'll see you all soon.